This needs to happen. We are going to be talking about a wild hypothetical trade that was suggested by an LA Times writer that would move Zach LaVine to the Lakers. We're going to be talking about what this deal would mean for the Chicago Bulls and the teams involved. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are jumping into an article, and this article has an LA Times writer who talked to a Western Conference executive and it said to this LA Times reporter that he's suggesting that the Lakers should make a deal for Zach LaVine. He actually throws out some names like Hachimura and also to D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent. These are names that he's thinking the Lakers would throw out to send over to the Chicago Bulls. And he's saying that this deal should be centered around not sending out any kind of draft assets. And so we're going to be jumping into this proposed trade, and I'm also going to jump into the trade generator where I go ahead and take this trade a step further, and also a couple of other trades that I suggest where the Chicago Bulls could move some pieces and get some pieces back that maybe make a little bit more sense for their future. And so here it is. You can find this particular article everywhere, but again, it is pretty wild where you have a reporter that has talked to an NBA executive in the West that suggests the Lakers should make this move. And again, here is the theory behind it. Just trying to make a move to get LaVine without having to give up any kind of a draft asset. And so here is the particular deal. You have Hachimura, you have D'Angelo Russell, you have Vanderbilt going over to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Zach LaVine. Also, too, you could put Gabe Vincent in there as well. That would match up as far as salaries and things like that. And so initially, I think that this deal is okay. I'm fine with it. Want to go more with Jared Vanderbilt because that is a power forward / center that the Chicago Bulls desperately need. I think that if we're going to go ahead and move Vooch, that would leave us with Jalen Smith, Jared Vanderbilt. You still have Sanogo. You have Kenny Lofton Jr. So I like that base that the Chicago Bulls would be building. As far as the timeline, he is 29 years old, so he's the same as Zach LaVine. He still fits in there. He is on a 4-year deal, so I'm not sure if he's going to be there for the duration of the 4, but I think it makes sense right away for a player that can give you some defensive presence, definitely come off your bench, and he's going to be a rim running big. With Hachimura, if we had to hold on to him, I'm not going to be upset with that either. I think he is a legit small forward that plays some defense. He's just coming off a year in which he had 13 points a game and about 3 or 4 rebounds a game. So I definitely like that about him. Shoots 37% career-wise from downtown, and also to right around like 49%, I think, from the field. So he is a solid player, all-around player. I'd absolutely have no problem bringing him over. With D'Angelo Russell, the only reason I like him coming over, not because it's necessarily a good fit, but because it's an expiring deal and it's something that I think the Chicago Bulls could flip. And so speaking of possibly flipping D'Angelo Russell, now is where I go into the trade generator, and I'm generating some trades that are still going to move some pieces, but maybe make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bulls moving forward here. So let's go ahead and start with this first deal, and this is based off that first one that we saw with the Lakers and Bulls. I take it a step further. We could go and we could maybe pick up the phone and get the Pelicans involved here, because look, the Pelicans obviously don't believe in Brandon Ingram, and I don't think that they want to pay him the $207 million extension for 4 years. So I think that that's not happening. We would get a player in Brandon Ingram who's on an expiring contract that puts us a little bit more in a win now situation to go along with our young pieces. But the Lakers would still get Zach LaVine. We could move D'Angelo Russell and Hachimura over to the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans would take this deal because, number one, they would get a true point guard coming over that would be able to run their offense, is going to run a bit more up-tempo for them. You still have Trey Murphy over there that you can play at the small forward. You have Hachimura Hachimura, and you also too have CJ as well. So you actually gain a little bit more for your bench and your rotation. They still have Herb Jones, and they wanted to play a little bit more faster up tempo. And nothing against Brandon Ingram, but I think he's more of a half court player at this point in time. He will get up and down the floor, don't get me wrong, but I think that the offense slows down a little bit more when they have to go through Brandon Ingram, and that may not be what they want to do if they're truly wanting to unlock a player like Zion Williamson. So that's why I think that maybe makes sense for all teams involved. The Lakers get Zach LaVine, and I think that if LeBron James were to go down, you now have Zach LaVine, you have AD, so you do kind of have some young players that you can go ahead and build off of for your next version of the team. With Zach LaVine, they are going to be definitely watching the budget moving forward from a salary standpoint. But look, Zach LaVine wins because he gets over to a team he wants to get over to. Clutch Sports, right? They win because that's Zach LaVine, that's AD, that's also LeBron. So they all get together there as well. And so I think that that's a win-win for them. The Chicago Bulls would get a player who's on an expiring contract. Again, he's going to help this young core because he's only 26 years old, if I'm not mistaken, talking about Brandon Ingram. And it's a show me deal, all right? Because if he comes over and he shows us that he absolutely deserves an extension, then I think the Chicago Bulls are going to be willing to talk to him, especially if he can blend in with these young players. And that's all Brandon Ingram really wants. He wants to be wanted. I think that is really the key situation around the Pelicans. And I think the Chicago Bulls are in the business to do so because they're trying to find their way. And I think, again, Jared Vanderbilt makes a lot of sense because they need that interior fix. They need to get better on the front line. So next, we go into our next deal here. And so I thought that this was interesting. We open it up just a little bit more. And I'm saying that we move Torrey Craig and also to Jevon Carter. I've suggested this before, but if we move them, we can possibly get Patrick Covington over here, or Pat Covington, excuse me. And then we also get MarJon as well from the Bucks. And then if we wanted to get more creative and move off of Lonzo, we feel like Lonzo is not going to be maybe the player that he once was for us, or we just have too many guards, which we do. We could possibly move him over to the Clippers and maybe bring back Norman Powell. This is still with that deal on the table with the Bulls, Lakers, and Pelicans, and this is essentially what we would look like here. And so, that is a deal that we could make. Again, if we're trying to get off Lonzo, we're also trying to get off of Torrey Craig, and then we're also trying to get off of Jevon Carter. And I think the reason that we would do a deal like that, or at least the Bucks would be open to a deal like that, is because they are in a win-now situation. I think that when you look at MarJon, I'm not sure that they have necessarily the patience to really go ahead and develop him because there's so much pressure on that win-now situation. I talked about Giannis getting into it with Coach Griffin last year, and then Coach Griffin got fired, and then you have Doc Rivers coming over, and he feels all the pressure, and I absolutely think they need a win-now situation. And Torrey Craig brings some defense. He also is going to knock down some shots as well. I think Jevon Carter, where he had the most success in his career was with Milwaukee. He gets to be in a backup point guard role, and he is able to go out there and really be free and run that second unit. So I think that is something that Doc Rivers would like. It is a veteran point guard that he generally likes to lean on. So I think that deal maybe makes sense for the Bucks and why they would do it. The Clippers are in a win now situation too. They just moved to this new arena. They lost Russell Westbrook. Lonzo would be coming home. You'd have to think that he is going to be a huge factor for them. And I'm going to say, even if he's at 70, 80%, I think the Clippers would want to do that. They want to make that big splash, and they want to give Kawhi, they want to give James Harden as much help as possible. Why not have Lonzo come over, see if he can bring some magic to the Clippers, and hopefully, help them not sink to the bottom of the West this year. So I like that particular deal for all teams involved here. We talked about this one. And so we talked about this Bucks deal as well. And so the last deal is going to be involving Vooch. And so I'm saying that we include that Bucks. We have the Pelicans, we have the Lakers, we have the Bulls. But now we could do a deal with Memphis sending Vooch over in exchange for Marcus Smart. The money matches up, the years on the contract match up. And I think in this particular situation, Vooch moves over to a place where he can perhaps be a backup to Zach Edey or even start over Zach Edey and give this team some experience. Remember, they are not too far removed from being a club that was, I think, second or third in the West. I forget what it was before the injuries hit and the suspensions. And so I'd have to think that this would help out Ja Morant. You already have Jaren Jackson over there as well to kind of stretch the floor. They've got Baines out there. They've still got young players in they've got Gigi Jackson. They've got Vince Williams over there as well. Yeah, Vince Williams Jr. So, I mean, this team would definitely love a big like Vooch. And I think with Marcus Smart coming to the Bulls, we would get a defender. We would get somebody that is going to establish that identity and continue to give us a little bit more of that defensive intensity that I think that the Chicago Bulls are going to need as they continue to build out this team. It is going to be a bit questionable because we are going to be really backed up at the guard position, but that's okay. I mean, you could still make some deals to move Lonzo out the way if necessary, if he's showing that he can absolutely play. But, this is a deal that maybe helps the Chicago Bulls get some players back that can help them and possibly they can build with as well. And by the way, before we jump out of here, I'm definitely wanting to see Lonzo Ball come back, be successful. But I just think that it is probably not going to be another contract he's going to receive from the Chicago Bulls. And I think that, yes, with us being crowded in the backcourt, somehow, some way, we're probably going to have to move him at some point throughout this year. But anyhow, let me know in the comments if you like any of these trades. Do you like the first original trade that was suggested by the LA Times writer, where it was just the basics of sending over Zach LaVine to the Lakers, and we would get either Jared Vanderbilt, we get Gabe Vincent, or we would get D'Angelo Russell? Or do you like some of the deals that I've suggested where we've added another 3-4 teams in there as well? So let me know in the comments which one you think is best, if any are going to work. And just wanted to thank you guys for watching, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to me as we try to reach 5,000 subscribers before the season starts. I know we're almost there. Look, we are 4 weeks away from training camp. Just want to let you know that 65.9% of you that watch the channel are not subscribed. So please make sure you mash that subscribe button for me so you can stay up to date with the latest news and happenings around your Chicago Bulls. And even though we're talking about just wild, hypothetical, nonsense trades around Zach LaVine, yet again, who we know is going to be on the team, at least for the immediate future, I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.